It sits at the foot of my bed. I can never make it out. Not exactly. I have an idea of what it looks like. The creature that has been my companion for so many nights of my life. It always just sits, out of eyesight. A shadow lurking in the corner. It's skinny, I think, with long limbs that seem to float weightlessly around its form. I've seen teeth flashing out of the shadows. I've never seen its eyes. I can feel its weight when it appears. The mattress sags beneath it, jostling me. This adjustment is the only time I move on the nights that it comes. I can't move. My limbs feel as heavy as rocks, weighing me down as if I were sinking through deep water. Even breathing is difficult. I don't blink. My eyes are fixed, straining to see it in more detail. The doctor says that all of this is normal. I was 6 years old when I was diagnosed. I'd been seeing the creature for much longer than that, but my parents dismissed it as childhood nightmares. It wasn't until bags formed under my eyes and I lost weight from the sleepless nights I endured that they thought to take me to be evaluated. I was referred to a somnologist. They observed me for a few nights. Turns out, there's a term for this phenomenon: sleep paralysis. There's no cure, but there are treatments. It started with my sleep cycle. My parents were encouraged to promote healthy bedtime and wake time. That did next to nothing. Then came the bedtime routines to try to relax me. They thought it might be caused by stress. What stress I would be under as a 6-year-old, I wasn't sure. That didn't help either. They tested me for other sleep conditions, narcolepsy, restless leg syndrome. Nothing. They tested me for underlying mental health concerns. The one they were most worried about was bipolar disorder. Luckily, I didn't meet those criteria. But then, my parents were out of money and out of patience. The doctor said I would grow out of it. I learned to live with the creature. It didn't seem menacing to me, even through the bouts of fear and anxiety that I would experience during its visits. It never made a move, simply sat at the edge of my bed, watching me. At least, I think it was watching me. With no eyes, it was difficult to tell. As I grew up, so did the creature. Every time it visited, it would be larger, more developed. It started out as a shadow, almost formless. As the years advanced, it became more and more solid, until I could almost make out the texture of its skin. I tried to speak to it once. It was a bad night. It had come every night that week, and I was exhausted. I was 10 years old, and just learning to stand up for myself, just angry enough to try it. I concentrated with all my might, forcing my jaw open. The creature moved ever so slightly as I did so. I could only croak out 2 words. Go away. My voice was a whisper, the only volume I could muster with the limited breath I was allowed. The creature moved. It was sitting before. Now it was crouched, limbs bent, head down. It looked ready to pounce. A hole opened in its face, where I could only assume its mouth should be. Rows upon rows of sharp teeth gaped at me. A creaking groan emitted from deep within its being. I would have cried if I could move. It stayed like that for the rest of the night. Head cocked to one side, studying me intently. The next time I saw it, it was back to its seated position. It was nearly a relief. I never tried to speak to it again. When I was in high school, I went on antidepressants. The somnologist said it might help. It banished the demon for a few weeks. The best nights of sleep I had in my life. When it came back, I could have screamed. I was at my wit's end. I tried everything, but I couldn't rid myself of the nightmares that plagued me. The doctors all told me that the creature was a hallucination, but after the years of trial and error, I was beginning to wonder if they were wrong. It wasn't until college that I discovered how to keep the creature at bay. I dated a girl for the first time during my freshman year. It was a brief affair, but when she slept over, the creature didn't come. When we broke up, it came back. But now I had a weapon on my side. It was easy to find girls in college. Everyone wanted to experiment. No one wanted to settle down. If one left, I could find someone else to take her place. By senior year, between girlfriends and one-night stands, I had only slept a handful of nights on my own. Then, I graduated and moved to a new town. It was harder to find people here, and the creature came back. It seemed smaller, emaciated, almost as if the shadows it was wrapped in clung to its bones like too small clothing. I had starved it, I thought. If I could keep it away for long enough, maybe I could kill it. I moved to a new city, one that was famous for its hookup culture. I kept the creature at bay for 6 months. It was late one night. I woke up with a familiar feeling of heaviness in my limbs and terror in my chest. I kept glancing to my right, where Clarissa should be sleeping. I had been seeing Clarissa for about a month, casually, and she always slept over. It was one of the reasons I kept things going with her. Clarissa was gone. Her side of the bed was empty, sheets pulled back as if she had left in a hurry. My heart rate sped up. In her place was the creature. It had advanced up the bed, sitting on the edge rather than at the foot. Its back was to me, hulking shoulders hunched in on itself. I could see the knobs of its spine sticking out, nearly poking out of its skin. I tried to call Clarissa the next morning. No answer. I assumed she must have gotten bored with our arrangement and was ghosting me. That was fine. I found another girl, Rose, who was funny and nice and a little bit clingy, which was the perfect combination. We had a good thing going for a few weeks. Then she left one night, and I woke up to the creature. It looked larger this time, healthier. I couldn't see its bones anymore. The weight of it sagged my mattress to one side. I was scared that I would roll into it. Rose didn't answer my call the next morning. That was strange. It started to become a pattern. I would see a woman for a few weeks. Then one night she would be gone, vanished, as though she had never existed. And the creature would take their place in my bed. With every disappearance, the creature grew larger, until it took up so much space in my room that I couldn't see past it. A sick feeling began to grow in my stomach. I wondered if the disappearances weren't a coincidence. I stopped bringing women home. I lay awake each night, the creature sitting next to me silently, begging for a release, but knowing that one wouldn't come. It started to shrink. I noticed after a few weeks, its weight on my bed grew less and less, until it barely seemed as though anything was there at all. Its form started to dissipate, shadows swirling around it, until it resembled more of a cloud than a creature. 6 months into my dry spell, and the silence stopped. Chittering noises emitted from the creature, although I couldn't see its mouth. The noises echoed in my empty room and sent chills down my spine. It sounded like a warning, but I didn't know what it was warning me of. Weeks later, the creature turned in the bed. I hadn't slept well in days, months really, and I could feel myself beginning to unravel. My dry eyes were burning, but I couldn't close them. It was crouched again, in the same position that I had seen when I had tried to speak to it all those years ago. But this time it was closer. The shadows peeled back from its face, and 2 dull crevices appeared, staring directly at me. It looked into my eyes, never breaking contact, until morning came. Something has to happen. Something has to break. And I think that something might be me. I can feel it coming, inching closer and closer to me every night. Its eyes, or what passes for them, have looked so deeply into me that I think it knows my innermost thoughts. It is late. I can feel a weight on my chest. Barely there, but enough to frighten me. I peel my eyes open and I can see the creature's face. It is gaunt. I've starved it nearly to the point of death, and a starving creature is the most dangerous. Its eyes peer into mine, and its hands clutch at my chest, nails digging in, until I think I might scream. They pierced my skin. I am frozen as the creature opens its mouth. An unearthly groan comes from it, echoing, growing louder and louder, until it's the only thing I can hear. The last thing I see is rows upon rows of teeth.